How my opinion is this: when you have a coach of a good program such as UConn, you're going to have things that you feel that is not going your way, and you're going to lash out and say, "Oh, this person is teaching that's not basketball, whatever." Well, I'm gonna tell you this to that particular coach. Remember, a few years ago, a certain other coach said the same thing about UConn, and that person was Pat Summitt from University of Tennessee, and she said the exact same thing that the UConn coach is saying to Dawn Stately. So my opinion is this: everybody plays basketball differently. There is no uniform way of playing basketball, safe way. But if you want a gentleman basketball game, make your own league and make your own rules. I have more respect for a coach that not only played on the college level, played in the high school level, played in the college level, played in the pros level, than somebody who's just coaching. Okay. Um, when you are just a coach and never played in the professional level, you don't know what the professional level mentality is. Now, in Dawn Stately, I might be pronouncing her name wrong, forgive me, but in her case, she grew up in South Philly. She grew up in Philadelphia, okay, where they play basketball rough. That's like street ball. She had brothers, she had people that she had to play against. And I'm gonna tell you, once you get on that court, I don't care if we're brothers, sisters, whatever. Once you get on that court, all bets are off. Okay? That same mentality carried her down to Virginia, where she was part of the Lady Cavaliers. And I'm gonna tell you, it's the same mentality that got her into the WNBA. Her style of playing made her one of the best players in the WNBA's history. One of the best. Even on Team USA. Okay. That's why I say when coaches say things about another team, just think about what correct credentials they have. It may not be your brand of basketball, but it's probably their brand of basketball. Okay. And everybody knows the Big East. Remember, years ago, the Big East brand of basketball was totally different from ACC back in the days. A lot of people don't remember that. It's time for y'all guys to get a history lesson. Back in the 80s, the Big East brand of basketball was street ball. Yes, street ball. It was the mentality. Of course, everybody's gonna say, "Oh, we was never like that." Bull. It was mentality because a lot of the people that went to these Big East schools came from the East Coast. They came from these urban cities. They came from New York. They came from DC. They came from Baltimore. They came from Philadelphia. They came from Boston. And they went to the Big East schools. And that same mentality made the Big East the beast of the East back then. Back then. Now, we have people complaining about the Big East brand of basketball when they played against ACC or the Pac-10 or these other conferences back then. They was complaining. People were complaining about the brand of roughhousing, the rough basketball play that Georgetown was doing back in those days. Because Georgetown had a lot to prove. A lot to prove. So now, the same philosophy that other coaches are doing, they're using that same philosophy. And people are complaining.
Yeah, this is 2-9 to base 10-8.
10-4. So that's it. They're complaining. So now you want to complain about what's basketball, what's not basketball. Because your team is getting beat. They finally figured out a way to beat your team. And that's the object of the game, is trying to beat your opponent. To beat your opponent. And that's what they're doing. It's the same way, if you look back in the history of the NBA. Good example of it. Detroit Pistons. Remember, the bad boys of the Midway, the bad boys of basketball. They were rough. And I do mean rough. New York Knicks was rough. Okay? People were complaining about their brand of basketball. Boston Celtics back in the 70s and 80s, they were complaining about how Boston Celtics was winning. Basketball is like any sport. It's a contact sport. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Trust me. There are some people who are very passionate about their team, about how the team's supposed to flow. And for Dawn Stately, I'm going to tell you right now, she has a lot to prove. She doesn't have to prove to me, because I already know what type of person she is. Because she is a person that is hungry. And she's trying to teach that into her girls. Those are her girls. And that's the thing about being a coach. And if you don't teach your people, teach your players how to be hungry, they're going to starve. So kudos to Dawn Stately and her Lady Gamecocks. Okay? A lot of people are not going to like it. So be it. But she's doing it within the rules. Okay? And that's my opinion. All right? Guys, have a good day. Be blessed.